So, Richard, I've just been born yesterday. Can you give me an introduction into the world of Veloq and into the world of Rolik as well?
I think we probably need to start a little bit with Rolik, because Rolik's kind of the Veloq is born out of the technology we've built for Rolik over the last 10, particularly 5 years, if I'm honest. So Rolik is now, we closed last year on 1.1 billion euros. We're an absolutely pure e-commerce grocery play. We're now present in 5 markets. If I go east to west, Romania, Hungary, Czechia, Austria, and Germany. We're growing at kind of 35% a year. So, which is just, when you kind of do the numbers, is quite a remarkable rate of growth. We're putting on 400 million euros a year in growth. And we went through this journey, which was, we started by saying we want to deliver an amazing customer proposition to the end consumer, because we just say, actually, what do you need to do? You need to have a really proper grocery basket, all the fresh items, everything you can get in a shop, fresh bakery, all of that complexity. But people, if they're buying online, they want it conveniently. So we offer a 3-hour delivery promise. We have a 90% available. If you click at any time, 90% of the time you'll find an order in the next 5 hours. And we're great value. So put that together, you just ended up with this extraordinary, and I mean, if I look at our customer ratings, better than anything I've seen elsewhere, extraordinary customer proposition. But kind of 5 years ago, probably, we started to realize that to continue to do this at scale, we needed to automate our sites. And we went through this journey of kind of, okay, how do we automate, doing the normal rounds of looking at everybody. And we came up to, actually, we started working with Autostore and Autostore technology. But we realized that if you just do the Autostore cube, you're not actually making the fulfillment center work properly. Because it's about how you get all of the products to flow through this, and managing grocery has, and particularly when you're doing true same-day grocery, it has peaks and troughs that are just enormous. So we've gone through this process now of designing, writing our own software, and really kind of developing the know-how of how to make a truly excellent, efficient grocery FC, and that delivers the customer proposition that is so important to us. So we did that thinking of ourselves, but then we began to think, okay, we've got something that's a bit special here, because actually the proposition is now system driven. That kind of excellence and that growth that I talked about really is driven by the Veloq system. So we took a decision, and then actually I joined to drive this earlier this year, that actually we're going to start working with other retailers, offering them this system and enable them then to succeed online. So I like to say this is, Amazon is now developed AWS because it had something that was valuable to other retailers. AWS is now more valuable than the retail business. That's kind of where we're going with Veloq and Rolik.
Excellent. And those, I'm going to take 3 points from what you just mentioned there. So obviously the very, very short delivery times, the very competitive prices, and then obviously adding automation in and software, which we'll touch upon to really emphasize those 2 points. How do you do all that? That's quite a tricky task, no?
It is a tricky task, and I think that is that's kind of the magic of the software, if you like. And I think key to us is that kind of everything in the FC is very well integrated. So if you take a kind of normal grocery FC, I don't know, you're getting to the end, and no fault of anybody, somebody breaks a bottle of olive oil. And normally, what do you have to do at that point? You have to kind of scuttle back, get rid of that bag, throw all that bag out, scuttle back, and rush round, lots of pen and paper, do manual adjustments to the stock, and then run back and hopefully not miss the van. The way we've written the software now is that's entirely system driven. So it all happens on the handhelds in the FCs, and that makes sure that's all system driven. So we've kind of made sure that everything happens within that. And the other thing is we make sure that the router for the vans talks very closely to the warehouse in terms of managing the queue for picking. So the warehouse is always rechurning the queue and actually working on what needs to be picked next based on the feedback from the router. The router is always rechurning the routes based on what the last order came in. So, we typically run 4-hour routes.
Yeah.
But we have a 3-hour delivery promise. And if you kind of work that out, that means that if you order kind of now, we've got to be able to put you on a van that's leaving pretty much now. So we're continuously churning that to make sure that we can get that delivery promise out there. So it is this, to my mind, the magic here is clearly know-how, and we've got great operators, but it's actually that integrated software that drives all of this, including a router. Now we can work with other people's routers, but actually, we've got an amazing router that does this.
Excellent. And scalability. So you mentioned obviously the countries that you're operating in at the moment, sort of from east to west. View to expand in more central, northern, southern Europe, US. What's the plan
for Veloq? Our plan is to target grocery. We think we've got an excellent product that really works for grocery e-commerce. If you look at that means you're working with major grocery players. Typically in most developed countries, there's 3, 4, 5 of those. That means we've got 100 people to work with in the world. We're doing that globally. We've got to do that globally. It's not the case we can just say, we're only going to work in the UK or only going to work in France on that basis. If I take the Rolik business, we've got tons of growth to go. Where these markets are underpenetrated in e-commerce. We're still a small share of the grocery market. We can be a tens of billions business just on the basis of the countries we're in at the moment.
Excellent, I see. And sort of piggybacking off what you just mentioned there, current trends in the grocery market. We were talking offline. It seems very busy, especially in the UK, which is actually quite a good sign. Obviously in the US as well with Kroger and Walmart, market seems quite busy. Are you seeing the same? Or
hugely. I'd say we've only formally launched 3 months ago, and I'd say we've kind of got a huge amount of interest. And I think, to my mind, taking a step back, what happened in grocery or what happened in e-grocery is we all got very excited during the pandemic. But if you remember in the pandemic, you would take any bloody slot you could get. And actually what then happened is you would take your slot, but actually the fulfillment you would get, you'd put your 40 items in your basket and 20 would arrive. And frankly, it was crap. And then therefore a bunch of people stopped shopping on grocery because they got disillusioned with it after COVID. So you had this kind of curve where everyone got excited. Everyone was going to growing as fast as you could. But actually there's a natural kind of wastage, if you like, which happened for the couple of years after COVID. But now we're getting this back. It's coming back. You're seeing this sustainable growth. I think almost everywhere we're looking, you're seeing sustainable growth. And you're seeing that kind of now in most markets, 10 to 20% growth per year in e-commerce. And it's been something that grocers didn't really want to address because they kind of said, this isn't very profitable. We're doing it out of the stores. Well, it's probably not very profitable. We can kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
But when you're starting to get, more than 10% of your sales out of a store, the pickers are competing with the customers. You don't know what stock you've got in the store. If you place an order now in your local supermarket, somebody's going to pick up that last loaf of bread off the shelf.
Yeah.
And the system might think it's there, but because it's between somebody's just about to check out with it, you've no idea. So you just don't get the same proposition. So frankly, it's not a great way of doing the fulfillment.
Yeah.
So now is the point where they've got to take it seriously. And I think that's really what you're beginning to see. And the other thing we're seeing very strongly is this shift to more convenience. So real same day. And particularly if you look in the US, we talked a little bit offline about this. Amazon has now announced they're going to 2,300 cities with same-day grocery. Walmart is now 25% online, growing a similar rate per year, hugely driven by apps, same-day orders. So for us, this is where I think our product is kind of quite special because you have to tap into that real same-day audience. to be able to be taking this winning share. And I think that's what grocers are now looking for. They're waking up that if you want to win online, which they realize they need to because it's becoming a serious channel, you've got to get to same day.
Yeah.
And that I think is going to lead to automated FCs.
And that is the real or the main way that we get to same day delivery in terms of the customer satisfaction as well.
Yeah.
It has to come from automation.
I think it has to you can't, as I say, when you're competing with customers, both knocking them over with the trolley, doing the picking trolleys and not knowing what the stock is, you have to get it out of the stores. Mm-hmm. It's kind of okay if you're picking at 6 a.m. before the stores open. But if you're picking during the day, which you need to do real same day because, what's really convenient for you? You order at lunchtime. Mm. You'd want it for your supper. Mm-hmm. So, you're going to order at lunchtime, you want to deliver it at 6 p.m. That can't be done well out of a store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
So for us, you got to do it, but it means you've got to have these automated, really designed for same day centers. That means they've got to be a bit smaller, a bit closer into the town, and quite flexible in how they're put together. Mm-hmm. But that to me is the key to unlocking this. Yeah, definitely. So on a random side note, I actually ordered a pair of shoes online, some running shoes on Monday, and they haven't arrived yet. And it's a disaster in my mind. So I think you're right in terms of the customer perception. It's not maybe pre-COVID or even during COVID, it was okay for things to be wrong and things to take 3-4 days. But now this is... Yeah, I won't tell you about the sunglasses. Haven't arrived for 2 weeks now.
Oh, blimey. Yeah, we'll avoid that. Right. So main topic and what I'm always fascinated to learn about in general in the industry, launching a new facility and the number of subcategories and topics that go around that. So I'd love to sort of touch on Vienna, what you guys are doing there, everything from the picking a technology provider, the solutions design, the supply chain, the logistics, implementing it all, getting everything live, etc. But I guess just starting, talk me through what you guys are doing out in Vienna.
So look, we launched Vienna earlier this month. And we're really excited by it. It's the next evolution of our technology. So I mentioned earlier, we've built this technology that's end-to-end within the fulfillment center that kind of enables this efficient flow of products and within the full complexity. Mm-hmm. Now, the toughest bit operationally has always been you do your picking and then you're trying to get that picking into route order. Mm-hmm. And you've got lots of bags and it's a bit like a very complicated jigsaw before you start loading onto the van. Yeah. So what we've now managed to do within the same time frame, by which I mean your pick to getting on the back of the van can be sub half an hour. Mm-hmm. Some cases as little as 12 minutes. Okay. We're actually sorting that. We're doing that route sorting in an automated way through the Autostore, and that, for us, is a kind of another big unlock of efficiency and also accuracy. Because I gave you the example of the broken olive oil bottle earlier. That's where you break the olive oil bottle. Mm-hmm. Typically, is where you're shuffling the bags round and getting it into route order. That's the most manual bit. So we've now managed, and we've got a system up and running that takes everything in the FC. So almost the case from picking to the point where it's getting onto the van, there's no human touch. Mm-hmm. Now, clearly we still do, and what's really important for us, we have manual sectors for bananas, because if you put your bananas in, they tend to get bruised, and there's nothing that annoys the customer more than bruised bananas. Mm-hmm. And we still have fresh bakery, and that's not actually happening inside the automation. It gets consolidated in the automation. But the core of this business and 80% of the volume just flows straight through the automation, which gives us the accuracy, the timeliness, and the efficiency that we think is now kind of world leading.
Mm-hmm. And then you take said information and said data, and when you're working with your customers and your stakeholders, reason I'm saying that in terms of sort of the solution design, the concepting, and then choosing an automation provider, in this case Autostore, and then integrating with that with your technology rather. How does that play in sort of from a wider scope, looking into what the solution looks like, how big the Autostore is, for example?
So, one of the things we do, grocery is a tough business. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked about it a little bit offline. All of these guys operate at 3-4% operating margin. The margins on these products are tough. You sell a lot of them, but they're tough. So we think really hard about how we configure the Autostores, what the right port is, and make sure that we're not over configuring because you just don't have that margin to play with. So we achieve 1 order per square meter per day ballpark in our centers because we think about making sure everything is really compressed. We think about making sure that kind of all of the corridors are, you don't have an extra inch on any of the corridors versus what you need. Because we want to keep that down. So the core of it is in Autostore. We put as much through that automation as we possibly can because that's the most efficient route where it's not impacting the customer proposition. And we keep it as simple as possible by using that for as much as possible. But within thinking about, okay, what port is it? Is that the most efficient port for this? Based both on a operating cost and a capital cost perspective.
And putting your project management hat on, I guess now, I think the ideal way to launch a new facility is you have maybe 3 or 4 timeframes, and then on said dates you push a big red button, you cut the ribbon, it's all celebrations, and the site goes live 100% capacity or fulfillment sort of on day one. I think that's the expectation, probably not the reality. There's obviously a lot of hiccups when it comes to, obviously we touched on integration of different technologies, getting everything to work, and then obviously scaling up your operations. So maybe not just going 90, 100% from day one. Bringing everything together, like I said, with your project management perspective, how does that look?
So I think we're quite lucky because we've got 6 of these automated centers running. They all run on an integrated set of technology, which so the FC is one software stack. The last mile is one software stack. So it's not cookie cutter, but it isn't the case that there's enough complexity that's managed in the system that it is not entirely different. So and we're opening another one later this year in Budapest, which is going live in November. That will be up and running for peak, and you're handling all of the complexities on Christmas. So clearly, you don't want to be going live, and you do need the ramp up period. You need the soft launch, you need the friends and family launch, and you need to go. But actually, because we've got an integrated software stack, we don't have to worry about the WCS talking to the WMS, talking to the router. Actually, that's there. That's all. So for getting our centers up and running is much simpler and therefore much kind of more reliable than it might be if you're trying to patch together lots of different systems.
Excellent. And what are you most proud of, ever in particular on the Vienna project?
I think that what I'm most proud of is we are automating and maintaining the customer proposition. It's not, there's traditionally been seen a bit of a trade-off. If you automate, okay, am I going to be handling everything in the right way? But we are still getting that product onto and I mean, really, everything you can buy in a grocery store, from bakery to avocados, onto the back of the van, handled really well, in half an hour, getting it to the customer, in 3 hours. That is just doing that and keeping that proposition as you scale, as you get automated. It's like having, the world's best deli that just delivers to you, but at supermarket prices.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And difficulties that you face, I think obviously you mentioned the example about olive oil getting broken. I know in terms of picking different products, whether that's a banana, quite fragile, or a glass bottle, sometimes it's hard for the vision or the robot to pick up said bottle. Probably the same for olive oil as well. Any difficulties that you faced in general and on this project?
Look, grocery is, let's just be clear, grocery is the most complicated thing out there. And that's why, we have 7 picking zones in our standard FCs, because you've got to handle all of the products in a different way. In this case in Vienna, this was we extended this with the new functionality while it was a live site. And credit to our operators for keeping it going and keeping the customer proposition going all the way through this. But one of the things we really like about working on the Autostore system is you can extend while it's live. Because of it's so parallel, taking one port down, one robot down actually doesn't impact the system hugely. And so, and we really like that actually for this purpose. Also, it means that you can expand the system going forwards. It means you don't have to spend all your money up front.
I think that coincides to a point we actually mentioned offline when it comes to the maintenance as well. So the same benefit when you're scaling and the flexibility there. If you use a more traditional method, i.e. a shuttle or an aisle crane, whatever it's called in the industry, the benefit of an Autostore is you're not necessarily restricted to shutting off that whole aisle, right? It's a lot easier to maintain.
It's massively parallel. So one robot, you've got one cell down, but that one cell is less than 1% of the grid. One port down, that's probably 5% of your capacity. So that's kind of, and that's all manageable. And also, but I'd also say it is very, very reliable. We can run at peak. We can run these things 24 hours a day, and we really don't see issues with that.
Yeah, brilliant. And the delivery side or the last mile side of your process, really interested to find out about that because you've got quite an intense delivery promise to your customers, which obviously you're delivering on. So
and it is remarkable, because we deliver. It's a 3-hour cutoff. As I said, you will always find a slot in the next 5 hours. And if you're one of our extra customers, think of Amazon Prime, subscription customers. We'll deliver in 15 minutes. Now, as a normal customer, you can pay for that. But 15-minute, being able to have 15-minute windows, in 3.5 hours time is just an extraordinary promise. And I think that is enabled by a router that is continuously churning and optimizing the routes up until about 40 minutes before departure, which is, again, pretty difficult. And that in turn is enabled by that continuous juggling that happens with the warehouse and with the WMS, that's continuously prioritizing what we're picking, and that's continuously prioritizing the routes. And because those two systems talk to each other so intensely, we can get it on the back of the van, but that van has only actually had its route finally set, half an hour before it departs.
Right, okay. I think that's probably debunks one of my most exciting bits of technology in a good way. I'm looking forward to it. It went a bit quiet, but I was reading and hearing a lot about drone or air-based solutions when it comes to, obviously, especially being in central London now, the traffic being a bit of a nightmare. So drones is the only answer to get the delivery promise in sub 1 hour times. But it seems like you're doing quite
and let's be clear. The other thing you do need is to have centres that are small enough that you can get them towards the centre of a town. But we'll happily do kind of greater than half an hour stemp time in the routes I'm talking about. If you go from West London, drive half an hour, you can get quite a long way. So you can do this type of promise over quite a large perimeter.
Excellent. Do you see drones, not necessarily in your business, but just in general?
I do.
The delivery.
I think it's definitely the case. We're seeing it strongly in grocery that there is some willingness to pay for convenience. Now, will they ever be the majority? I doubt it. I don't think you're ever going to get your weekly shop. Well, certainly in my lifetime, you won't see a weekly shop delivered by drone. But people are prepared to pay for convenience, and we're clearly seeing that.
Yeah, definitely so. And I'm going a long way back into the start of the conversation. I'm interested to see your view in the next 5 years of people going in shop versus going out of shop, because I remember in COVID, I jumped on the online shop bandwagon, and for similar reasons as you mentioned, I was dissatisfied, so I then went back to shopping, and now I'm kind of going back around full circle and doing all my shopping online. But what do you think in the next sort of 4 or 5 years in terms of the trends, in terms of the customer demands?
I said somewhere else that nobody enjoys going to a supermarket on a Saturday morning. I was promptly informed that they enjoy going to a supermarket on Saturday morning. So very few people enjoy going to the crowded supermarket on a Saturday morning. I think, therefore, kind of, if you can give people a way of getting that, that they will take that convenient offer, and I think that can be a very large part of the market. And most markets is still sub 10%. So I do think that you are going to see that shift, and particularly as the online players get more efficient. Now, that said, I'm thinking people will go into stores. They'll want to see the product inspiration. They'll want to. Actually, I think you'll find that the consumer goods brands will pay more to get their goods into stores because they'll want to do that. But it does mean the store's got to be reinvented.
Okay.
I think it's got to be more inspirational. I think you've got to enjoy it more. I think it's actually got to be more of a destination you want to go to. I think it's got to be less of a place that is a functional place that you do your shopping. And to some extent, I think that will then feed the inspiration that you buy online. And I think that will be that you're going to see this kind of bifurcation in a lot of shops where the shops start to kind of feel more experiential, but actually certainly for things like groceries, you're going to get them delivered online or delivered to you because it's just so much more convenient. And you'll probably go less frequently to a shop, but they'll kind of still be important for your decision making.
Interesting. Is that a compliment to the world, not necessarily just e-grocery, but just in general, online shopping? It's been accelerated so much that then the physical shops have been a bit left behind in terms of inspiration and maybe falling behind.
Yeah, and
pushing the online shops.
Let's be honest,
cycle.
This becomes a challenge to somebody who's got 1,000 offline shops because they're probably not all going to fit in this model. And I think one of the reasons you've seen reluctance from grocers to shift to what I think is the best way of fulfilling is because they don't want to take the volumes out of stores, and they want to make sure that the online volumes are still being picked in the stores because it keeps it going through. And that's why I say I think you reach this tipping point where they start to say actually this is no longer sustainable doing it in the stores, and they've got to actually sort of face into the reality of what to do with the store base.
Next 5 years in your world specifically with Veloq, what are you excited about?
I think what I'm most excited by is the ability to actually help grocers with this transition, because it's a transition they need to make. And it's a transition that just gives them this exciting ability to grow, this exciting ability to actually start to win share online, and to win share profitably. And I'll go back. So I spent nearly a decade in China. And while I was in China, every grocer was really excited about it when I landed. So Walmart, Tesco, Carrefour, all there, all really excited. Basically, with the exception of Walmart, they've all kind of exited the market. Why? Because the market just shifted online so fast. And all of that profit went to Tencent, Alibaba, JD.com, Meituan. And I think that's kind of what I'm excited by, actually, because this actually gives the grocers the ability in this side of the world not to let that happen. To say, actually, we can offer that really excellent service, and we can actually go and we can actually make that transition ourselves and serve this customer in this new exciting way.
Excellent. And I'm actually going to answer this question first. But my final question is piece of technology or automation in the world, maybe outside of the one that you're operating in, that you're most excited about. I'm going to say driverless trains, purely based on the strikes that we've experienced today. So anything transport based, if we can automate that, I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I was going to, honestly, I
don't know what you think.
I don't know if this is too close to what I do, but I think driverless cars, because I look at my space, ballpark, half of the cost sits in the fulfillment center, half of the cost sits in the delivery.
Yeah.
If you can start to, we can do a lot in the fulfillment centers, but at the moment, most cars and most vans are still driven by people, and that adds a lot of cost to the delivery.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in that space. And I think that will be another step change to the efficiency and the ability to really drive what we're doing. So I think that's kind of, to my mind, it's not going to transform the space in the next 24 months.
Okay.
But I think actually look to 3 to 5 years out, there's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot. We've got some trials going that, under the covers at the moment that I think could really kind of change the economics of this.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the whole benefit of technology and automation. It's the mundane or the reusable or consistent jobs that we're doing. You take the human out of that, get them to do something that's more value adds, and then the world's a better place.
Exactly. Hopefully. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Have you ever been in a driverless typed vehicle?
I have. They're fun.
Yeah,
they take a little bit of getting used to.
Okay.
But honestly, if you look at the stats, they seem to crash less than ones with drivers.
Well, yeah. My friend went in is it a Waymo? I think in the US they're called. He said he went in. He did like 3 trips.
Mm-hmm.
The first kind of 1 or 2, he was very nervous, but then by the 3rd trip, it just shows how quick we're adapting to it. He was like, it was just completely normal. Just work away in your laptop, drink if you want, etc. Yeah. So it's the way forward.
And I think you learn to trust them. I've been driving a Tesla here with this autopilot, and you do learn to trust it.
Yeah. Excellent. Richard, that's all. I know you've got a meeting to get to, so I appreciate your time. It's been good to connect, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.